This episode of the Only Kings podcast is brought to you by organicpricedbooks.com. Guys, there hasn't been a better time to start comic collecting, let alone get into the omnibus game. They have a wide and growing selection of books shipping now, as well as highly anticipated pre-orders, such as The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5 Omnibus, priced at $125, discounted to $80. Enter my promo code KING at checkout for an extra discount. Again, enter promo code KING for an extra discount on top of the 36 to 40% they are already offering. Organicpricebooks.com, promo code KING. Now back to the show. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Likewise. I'm glad to get out.
Yeah, it's good to see you, man. Aside from like the cabin get-togethers, when was the last time that we just talked? Like back when you had that apartment in downtown, right?
You came by a couple times,
Yeah.
right?
When you were doing all the coding stuff.
Yeah. No, I like to think that I've led maybe 3 or 4 lives here in Albuquerque.
Fuck yeah, you have.
I definitely get myself into a lot of strange experiences, but I definitely think a sense of place is important to me. And so now that I'm separate from that downtown spot, I feel like I'm a totally different person.
So where are you living now?
Well, I guess kind of still downtown. I live in Nob Hill.
Oh, okay.
On the edge of Nob Hill, right
Nice.
by the university. Now, as soon as I started doing any sort of locations work, really focusing on sense of place, I got selfish and kind of on the clock, not really on the clock. I definitely found myself the best apartment in town.
Nice.
I'm convinced, for whatever cost value, something like that.
Property value type deal.
Yeah, I wish I could buy it. I've I've sent so many messages and done so much almost like sycophantic stuff for my landlord that I'm like, let me buy it.
Would you like some ice with your adult beverage?
Sure, yeah.
There you go.
Einstein bros, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Get one less.
All right.
Always good to find the moderation in between.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know any other time. I must have been last time that we linked was at the cabin, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, like you kind of touched on it a little bit, but you've lived a couple. Just tell me when.
Okay. That should be good.
All
Should be
right.
good.
Let's go, son. Yeah, I've never had this either, so. I'm
Right.
excited.
Well, before we get into it, what is this that we're drinking?
So we're drinking Old Tub. It is a different, like an offshoot of James Beam. Sponsor me. Yeah, it's an offshoot of James Beam, and I just saw it at Costco for like $15. And I was like, all right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's American.
Yeah.
Every time I talk about whiskey with people, like recently, people have been like, "Yeah, I love Jameson," and I'm like, "What?" Okay, sure. If you're in Killarney, rolling around the Ring of Fire, checking out these lava rocks.
Cheers, buddy.
Whatever. Cheers.
Cheers. Good to see you.
And it's good too.
That's
It's pretty dark.
really good,
Yeah,
actually.
Wow.
Holy shit. Because my go-to is Bullet.
Okay.
Bullet's my
Still
shit.
bourbon.
Yeah, I fucking love Bullet, but that's good. That's really good. That's a good aftertaste, too. Kind of sips you for a bit. So you kind of touched on it just now, but you've lived a few lives, it seems like, in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Just in general. So last time I saw you, you were doing like the data boot camp almost, right?
Oh, sure. The
Yeah.
deep dive coding boot camp.
Yeah. What was that like?
So I guess the best way to tell this story is like I'm hung up on a girl down in Roswell, a little bit older of a girl, to be honest. She taught me a lot of things.
Okay.
And we were having a good time. I'm spending time in Roswell, and I finally get essentially my chance out. I figured it out. I raised money through some church people, and
Yeah.
anyhow, I learned that this position was open, and it's for an intensive computer science boot camp. But I did some computer science in Tennessee too. But
If you want the space heater back on, just let me know.
I have no temperature control. I really don't get cold or hot.
Oh, okay,
I probably would get hypothermia before I realized it.
Okay. All right, so you did some work down in Tennessee with computer science, but now you have this chance in Albuquerque.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, sweet. I get this set up. My rents helped me find an apartment, that apartment downtown.
Right.
And then immediately before I go, while I'm doing the kind of prep work or pre-work, right, I go visit my little brother in Germany. So I spend 2.5 weeks with one of my brothers and both my parents, and then my little brother, we come and find him and grab him from his like host family. It's like the end of his trip. And then we go around the Czech Republic and Austria and Germany. Germany's got 4 or 5 different metropolises, all with their own little culture and whole vibe. So it's definitely a place to explore.
So what was that like?
Going abroad?
Yeah, what was that like?
It's kind of wild to think about going abroad
now. Yeah.
Like it kind of feels like surreal, I would say. But going abroad back then was awesome. You know, it's public transportation, trains and little buses, and like you can walk most places, these older cities.
Yeah.
But people are still really friendly to Americans as long as you don't like fit a particular niche.
Act like a fucking American.
Yeah. If you don't go like clearly overboard, everybody else is super welcome, and there's expats everywhere.
What's an expat?
Someone that's expatriated, I guess, someone that's from America or from a Western country and gone to another country, started living there.
And they just identify with that new...
Well, it's a pretty unique identity, I guess I would say. Okay. Like you're still an American citizen, but you're living abroad. So okay. And like some of them are kind of Oliver Stone, like, you know, we should have left the Vietnam War, like all that stuff. But most of them are just like, I'm here for one reason or another. And I feel like I remember a statistic that expats vote more per capita than people living domestically. So I didn't know that they were called like expats. I've never heard that term, so that's interesting. But like, yeah, I've heard that the most, like, there's a bigger per capita of Americans overseas that vote in our elections than people that are in the continental U.S., which blows my fucking mind. Oliver Stone, funny you bring him up. Okay. I love his movies, but he has a really good interview with Rogan. He has a really good one that came out a couple months ago, and they actually talk about like the way, for instance, the way he made Platoon. Oh shit! Right, and it's like how all of those characters were just amalgamations of people that he served with in Vietnam. Yeah, and how like when you look at a lot of war movies made for mainstream media, right, the ones that really get a lot of attention, how just blatantly inaccurate they are. Oh, for sure. Right, and how like they glorify a lot of things that aren't necessarily important. Like he brings up, like, sure, combat deaths are very important, and the lives that were lost in various conflicts are definitely should not be short-sighted. But he kind of made like an indirect comparison to Jarhead. If you ever seen that, yeah, right? How like it's the psychological part of being overseas, and definitely the psychological part of being in war that's more important, right? Because the guys that do survive it come back all fucked up, right? He's a really interesting. Like I'm gonna see when that came out because Platoon.
The interview with
sure. Well, you could even look at his filmography, compare that to something that he wrote but didn't direct, like
Scarface.
Well, yeah. You can compare it to Scarface, but I don't feel like that's a.
But yeah, so 7 months ago. So yeah, it's really good.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah.
I just read his newest book. It's called Chasing the Light,
and that's what they promoted actually, and that's on my Amazon.
Good,
it's
dude.
Been on my Amazon wish list for a while now.
That's actually just like an easy way to call out and like appreciate my family, you know? I've made a lot of changes, and it could be probably, I bet, a little bit difficult to like keep up with what I'm doing for all my brothers. I have 3 brothers and my parents, and we're very close. But my dad for Christmas bought me this book. He's like, yeah, kind of like this is the way that I'm showing that I'm trying to support you and what you're doing now.
For sure.
And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I read the book and I'm like, it's a good read.
Fuck it, that's awesome.
And it's like chasing this creative journey. It's really interesting. But back on his war movie thing, he definitely was fucked up by Vietnam. Yeah. And like he talks about it a lot. Mm-hmm. He talks about how it ruined like sex, drugs, and alcohol for him. And he had to like find real new
Stimulus.
appreciation of it, and definitely new stimulus. He was like a adrenaline junkie, and so he's like he tells a story about calling his dad from jail in Mexico.
Oh my
and
God.
I'm like, that's how stories should be. It's like you got to be starting somewhere where you shouldn't belong, talking to someone you don't want to talk to, and it's like, why?
Jeez.
And that's where I really see like good entertainment value. Of,
Oh, for sure. And that's where, like, I feel like having a troubled background,
Sure.
and then either separate from that or conjoined, having experiences with certain substances, right?
Okay.
Really can breed that creative, like, energy or like juice, whatever that is that's in somebody that like makes them create art. Like, for instance, Stephen King, like, he's gone on record multiple times saying that he doesn't even remember writing like whatever era he was writing like Cujo in.
Okay.
He doesn't remember writing most of those books. He's all fucked up on cocaine.
Jeez.
Yeah. So back to what we were really talking about. So you traveled abroad and you went through Germany. Where did you
Back to deep dive.
Yeah. So where did you go through in Germany?
So my little brother was in this small town called close to Osnabrück.
Okay.
It's called Quakenbrück, and like I don't know why it sounds like ducks are assumed right there. It's actually like their whole theme and their whole thing is frogs. So I was like, okay, a little bit of a non sequitur, but like, all right, if Quakenbrück is about the frogs, I'm here for it. And then after we picked him up and met his host family, people that put my brother up for a year or whatever, we went through Munich and Bavaria and then to Berlin, which is a trip and a half. Berlin's got like 7 different worlds inside it. Easy.
This is a cute little town.
Quakenbrück. Yeah, you got it pulled up. There you go. And then on to a bunch of different places. I think the places that are most important to me are like, I would say Prague really comes to mind, and be able to see a place that I could really see myself living without even speaking the language. There's no way I'm going to learn how to speak Czech.
Right.
Like, goddamn, no chance. But there's enough people that speak English there, and there's enough of it being like a global city, and a lot of expats too, that I could totally see myself enjoying living there.
Wow.
And there's a smaller town that would not be as accessible called Český Krumlov in the Czech Republic, but it's these like ancient, I think maybe 800-year-old town, and like there's something beautiful about just like a cultivated place. It kind of reminds me of Taos, in that like Taos has this whole aesthetic, and it's like they're definitely trying to maintain that.
Right, for sure.
And I really appreciate that as like a community level effort of doing stuff like that. So I definitely had a great amount of experiences across this whole place, especially with my older brother too. Like at one point, just the 3 brothers, like my parents had already left. 3 brothers, we were in Berlin for 3 nights, and that's definitely a shenanigan waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Too. But the kind of nomadic, I saw people out there that were functional nomads. They're doing remote work.
Yeah.
And they're living abroad, and it's like they're just based off of Wi-Fi for a certain amount of hours a day, and as long as they get their shit done, they can do whatever they want.
That's insane. Yeah.
And it's, in a way, it kind of feels like foreshadowing or thinking of now. Like, now everything's remote in my world.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I wish I had already been out of the country when this all started so that I could be doing that right now.
Right.
But I'm glad I'm here because, it's definitely the fastest way to get a vaccine is to be an American citizen right now.
Yeah, which and it's I want to say funny, but it's interesting you bring that up because there was an article that I saw. I didn't read it. I saw the headline. I was at work. It was either by the Washington Post or the New York Post, and it was the headline was we don't get to the end of the pandemic with, this is paraphrasing obviously, but like we don't get to the end of the pandemic with rich countries hoarding shots. And it's like, fuck, I didn't even think of that. Like, that's right.
Yeah, there's like a hierarchy of wokeness where it's like once you are finally aware of all the issues here and are trying to make awareness of the stuff that's going on domestically, it's like, okay, but then also check your privilege because you're not living in Botswana or that. I mean, it doesn't matter what country I bring up right there, but you're not living in these places.
The third world countries that are
much more difficult to exist in.
Yeah.
And I try to check myself sometimes and be like, okay, well, I can't solve every problem at once if I'm trying to do too much. So
Yeah.
baby steps. First, work on my community here, and then work on my community a little bit bigger, maybe all of New Mexico, and then maybe get closer to trying to help.
No, yeah, for sure.
Across.
So what do you think?
borders.
I'm going to ask you this question, and then I'm
Yeah.
going to check the cameras real quick. What do you think is like, whether this is from research that you've done or just experiences you've had in this town,
Okay.
what do you think priority-wise Albuquerque needs to take care of first?
Well, I wish people would vote for me to be part of the Civilian Police Oversight Committee. I lost the election last time I tried to run, which obviously I'm not qualified for, but I think we definitely have a policing problem. Like, that's a pretty easy start.
For sure.
Priorities, though, it's so clear in my mind that we're on the right track, doing the right thing, and that we are going to blow up as a global cinema location.
You
A
think
film
Albuquerque's
capital.
going to?
Absolutely. I think that their leading indicators are all there. Like, okay, so take this. I would never have gone to UNM fresh out of high school. You know, I'm going to UNM now. I'm really actually excited about it. But It's
Okay.
a product of years of different deals and circumstances changing and such. But now I think I'm in one of the best places to be learning about film because we have almost $2 billion of new investment within the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And like
Okay.
continuing on for the next couple of years, there's like distinct collaboration between civic offices and these larger studios. You know, there's a great picture of, I'll leave names out of it, but a great
Yeah.
picture of a person in the film office with people in the local government and people within studio administration saying like, we're here to try to work with the film office, with Albuquerque, with the university system.
That's a very positive
You know?
thing, for sure.
Oh yeah, and it's like that's accessible. So I think that like really standing by and really trying to double down on making this place the best place to film between the coasts, you know, definitely is where I see the priority, and I think we're doing it well. After that, it's hard to tell. I think that a lot of where I was aware or where I was really focused on stuff has changed since COVID started. I used to be a giant advocate for small businesses and what I call these sociological third places, a spot other than work and home where you meet people.
Last time we talked about stuff like this, you were working on that app. What the fuck was it called? Now I feel like a piece of shit. What was it called?
That's totally fine. It's called Hangarang.
Yeah.
Hang is in hangout, and then boomerang kind of smashed together this portmanteau of programmer jargon, but
Where you would do like pop-up events, and it would
Right,
promote
right.
whatever the event was for. It would promote the venue. Like, that was a great fucking idea.
yeah, people didn't really want to get together about this time last
Well,
year.
yeah. No, for sure.
But the idea is to bring people foot traffic into these places, especially local businesses,
Right.
and then show off how cool some of these places are and hopefully get you to come back and back and back again like a boomerang. I'm talking, I had like hundreds of business cards. I had Salesforce integrations. I was in a accelerator incubator hybrid with 2 local nonprofits that are all about enabling these tech companies. I had a business partner who like really was my best friend and biggest ally in the world for like almost a year. I mean, it was a real effort, and it taught me so much. But I think that I think you can tell that I wasn't ready for the world then because I didn't really like country music back then. I didn't like country music in Tennessee either when I was living in Asheville. And like now that I feel like I've gone through a lot more of my life, like I have this newfound appreciation for like these old songs. And I think that there's something very elusive about whatever lesson I should be learning there. But like, no, I really do feel like that going through stuff has given me new appreciation for every person that I meet and like what they have to teach you, I think.
No, for sure. I think, and it's funny you bring that up because I have very much the same philosophy through like this platform. Like I think podcasting is such a new thing in relation to media in general, right?
Okay.
It's such a new. I think if you break it down, it's the clear evolution of talk radio,
Yeah,
right?
sure,
It's
sure.
the clear evolution of talk radio, and people like Howard Stern kind of prove that talk radio is still viable for sure, right? But the beautiful thing with podcasting is you don't need all of this to do it. I've just become fortunate enough to where I've had investment partners that were willing to hear me out.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that static is because it hasn't done that since like when me and Joey first shot with these mics. So I don't know if this is gonna be like a recurring problem.
As good as I am with technology, as fluent as I am,
Yeah,
in my
I have
methods,
no idea
I
what the
am
problem
cursed.
is.
I definitely bring a sort of chaos to any IT scenario.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't know what the fucking problem is. Try to turn that down a little bit, maybe. No? All right, whatever. Fuck it.
But-
We'll just deal with it. Anyway,
Yeah.
so what I was saying is podcasting is such a new thing relatively,
Okay.
right? And looking at like what it is, like again, like I was saying, you don't need all of this. And I just got fortunate enough to be able to have the access to get all these things. And it definitely adds a production value what I hope will catapult this forward quicker than it would with what we started with. Because I remember back in October of last year, when Joey and I first shot the very first episode, we shot it, right? But it was with like $25 mics and $20 cameras. So the cameras were less expensive than the mics. And they're all off of eBay. And the most expensive thing was the mixer. It's a different mixer than this one. And I remember sending it to my producer who's helping me out with this.
Sure.
And he looks at it and he goes, dude, your footage is unusable. And I'm like, what do you mean? We had so much fun doing it. Like, oh, and he said, no, I'm sure you did. But, dude, it's orange. The footage is fucking orange and it's choppy. I think the frame rate was like 15 frames, 20 frames per second. Like, it wasn't usable to like sync up with the audio.
Okay.
And so we're like, fuck, oh, well. So at least that is an audio only. And and then just I had some people that still want to remain anonymous, and they were like, hey, I know what you're doing, so like, and I've got some spare money, like what's your plan? And I just broke it down, and they're like, oh fuck, okay, fine. And I was able to do all this in like 3 months. But you don't need all this, right? All you really need is like, if you have one of those new iPhones that has a crazy good camera and a crazy good mic installed, like within the phone, you can just get that and a little, like I got a little iPhone tripod over there, and you just set that up and you just talk, right? That's all this is, just talking, right? There's a lot of solo podcasts that I very much enjoy. But doing it like this, I mean, like we talked about a little bit beforehand, my clear inspiration for this is Rogan's podcast. Because he started out kind of just like bullshitting with his friends, but what it evolved into was him sitting down with everyone from his friends to famous people to intellectuals to athletes. It's a whole wide
My
variety
little
of people.
brother says, like, is confident that Joe Rogan is the most neutral platform to speak on.
He is, no, for sure. No, I think I'd agree with that because like he really doesn't give a fuck. Like he has so many things going on in his life before he got $100 million from Spotify, right? Sure. He's doing UFC commentary, stand-up comedy, and then the podcast with the multitude of sponsors that he's had and currently has. Like, he has the definition of fuck you money, you know? Like, he can say whatever the fuck he wants, and no one's going to touch him. And there's a lot of people on the internet right now that's saying, oh, well, Spotify's censoring him, Spotify's doing it. But there's no evidence of that through my point of view. And I'm like...
So what if they are?
Well, because, like, I think staying and maintaining that neutrality is so important. And that's what I love about this is, like, I want to sit down, like, I kind of approach it the same way. Like, I can use this platform as a great way to shoot shit with my buddies.
Sure, yeah.
Right? And then I can use this platform as to talk to people that I normally probably wouldn't be able to talk to. If it's like, hey, do you want to come over and hang out? Like, you know, like, I don't know. Why am I going to come to your house? But if it's like, hey, I've got a podcast. Do you want to come on it? It's a little more like, oh, you're doing a thing, right? There's a thing that's going to be surrounding this. So like for instance, in about 2 weeks, I'm going to have a clinical psychologist on that specializes in family behavioral therapy. And I think, and I'm super excited to have her on. And I think that's a very important thing to talk about with the whole pandemic going on. That's been going on for over a year now. And feel free if you want to get a refill, by the way.
I would. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking good. So like, now I just get to the point where I just see what this platform has to offer. And I just think like my goal is like, even if I made zero money off this show, right? Okay. $0 ever. I'd be like, okay, that's fine. I don't really give a fuck. Like, as long as I can maintain like a day job where I pay my bills, I have food, that's all I really care about. But like, as long as I can like, because I have all the equipment that I need, and I have a garage that I've retrofitted for this now, right? All I really need is those stupid little like sound pads to stop the echo, the minimal echo we have. But as long as people are willing to talk and people are willing to speak their minds, that's all I care about. Like, you can't buy that. I mean, you can buy that, but I'll take that back. You definitely can buy that.
So are you not paying me?
But like, you know what I mean? Like, I think this is a really, like, when used properly, I think that podcasting is a beautiful thing for free speech. You know, I think it's a beautiful thing for it. That has a obvious upside as there's a downside. But I think like, I still have enough trust in people and people in general that like, if you see somebody saying clearly stupid or clearly evil things, that you look at that and you see what it is, right? You know what I mean?
Well, I'll take you up on this. So if you see people saying crazy things or evil things, or even thinking these things or expressing these things on social media or some other platform, it takes a kind of radical empathy to be able to not meet them with a dismissal or meet them with contempt almost. What really blows me away, and I think that if you want to look it up, you're welcome to. But you can look up, I think it's Cut, if I'm not mistaken, a Cut video.
Oh, I like their videos.
Scientists talking to flat earthers.
Oh, I've seen that one. And they're just sitting there the entire time like, oh my God.
Well, that's what it comes out as first, right? But I'm talking, these people are like PhD astrophysicists and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, in their title of their degree, it relies on the Earth being part of a solar system, part of like a larger stellar
at a bare minimum being a sphere.
And so if these people can approach flat earthers, however authentic this presentation is, but actually approach them by listening to them and trying to meet them halfway and trying to actually empathize with them. Right. Like, that's a lesson to me, because whenever I'm having these kind of conversations where I'm like, you need to shut the fuck up, I challenge myself to try to kind of chase this empathy of like someone with a PhD in astrophysics that's studying black holes colliding and like this space-time interaction, trying to prove that you could potentially travel in time backwards based off of the different spatial rifts of two black holes entering each other's event horizon, or whatever it is. Right. Talking to someone that is genuinely convinced that the Earth is flat. Right? So it's like, if you can watch someone with that level of input, their life is really based on this, honestly, an assumption. And it kind of is an assumption because we kind of know. Yeah, there's no. It started off as a joke, right? Yeah. But they can talk to another human being with empathy to like coax them through it and maybe see change, maybe not. Then I can talk to someone who has views that I find real problems with and like maybe find a real solution. And then there's not a lot of middle ground these days, but there's not. And that's like, that's a perfect way to put it, is like, I want this to be a genuine middle ground, right? I mean, aren't those videos called middle ground? Sure. I think they're called middle ground. Because any video that's part of a franchise that has like a name and a title and a series, I lose a little bit of interest in it, but that's just me. No, so one thing that's super important to me, just based off of the people that I've been recently interacting with, and like I have some people that are very close to me in my life, is that
this one right here, right?
Yeah.
Flat Earth. Yeah, it's called Middle
Please
Ground.
don't put it on. I actually take it totally back. I hate watching it. It physically hurts me, but it hurts me just because it challenges me. So like
Right.
something that I have come recently into like understanding and taking a focus on, partly because of one of my classes and partly because of these people that are important in my life, is the issue of violence against trans people, especially trans women.
No, for sure.
And like I almost get made fun of sometimes among a lot of my friends or a lot of the people that are like, why do you care about this? And it's like, it's because it's something that I know I have a lot more ability to interact with people where I can actually change people's minds than people that live this experience, right? So it's like, if I'm talking to another person that's like a white cis guy, there's 1,000% more chance that I'm going to be able to convince them to like, you know, maybe educate themselves more or like hold their views a little bit less tightly, you know, closely than someone that's living this experience because they already have made their mind up from the moment they see them, you know?
And see, like, yeah, no, we're on the same page. And no, we are. And like, I don't understand why anyone, because
I'm actually in the back of the book looking at the answers, but continue.
I don't understand why anyone can look at the subject of violence against blank, right? Violence against transgender people, African Americans, Jewish people, more recently Oriental people due to the coronavirus. Like, I don't know how anyone can look at that and say, why do you care? Because I've seen shit like that on the internet. And it's like, well, that's unnecessary violence against another human being. Like, I believe in necessary violence. I also believe in recreational violence. But like, it's
not always that clear cut.
Nothing is, right?
It's like the violence is not like, okay, if you're in a room with somebody and they like put a pistol in your hand and they say, do you want to shoot this person or not? You're going to probably say no,
yeah.
Right? Obviously.
The typical human being will say no, right?
When it's that clear cut, it says no. But when it comes to something, here's one particular example that I feel like has been in the news a lot. And like I've had a strange variety of interactions around this particular issue, is the idea of trans women competing in women's sports.
Right.
So like that's something that's like intuitively you're like, maybe trans women shouldn't be allowed in women's sports. Just off of a gut instinct, I would imagine. People are like, oh, well, that doesn't really make sense. Like women's sports, like you have an unfair advantage. And you'll even see it in places like, I really like to read The Week. I don't know, as a news source.
I haven't heard of them, no.
It's great. It's choppy. It's got great design. But yeah, shout out The Week. Sponsor me, whatever. But even The Week posted like a both sides issue, and it's like, one side seems informed and one side seems like this gut instinct, right?
Is it these guys?
Yeah, that looks like it. I'm sure they've got 20 news stories on there that are interesting. It's just like choppy, like well edited, you know, kind of a amalgamation of news, you know, The Week in Review kind of idea. Mm-hmm. But talking about women, trans women in trans sports, like there's legislation. I'm not totally familiar with the issue anymore, but like I think there was some legislation that was trying to be passed at a state level, I want to say in Kentucky, that it was like, before the collegiate level, like you have to be assigned female at birth to be competing in these.
You are correct. It is state level.
And so it's like, okay, yeah, that seems at itself like a totally fine issue. Like it's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna make this hard line. But then when you take a look at the specifics, and it sucks when things are complicated and boring. I understand that. It sucks when you can't make a 20-second decision on something. But then you see you're like, actually, this is preventing people that live this experience from accessing scholarships and like real, like the benefits of a lot of these team sports, especially like being able to actually get there. And it's like, okay, people are like, oh, but let's look at this ridiculous straw man. And there are some particular examples of like somebody that's in wrestling or like track and field. But like, all I'm trying to say with any of this is that when you actually take a look at it, when you actually care about it, I'm able to be in the right room or in the right spot. I'm thinking of one road trip where like 5 of my friends are discussing this. It pops up on the news or something.
Right.
I'm like, actually, y'all, slow your roll. You come into a consensus on the wrong side. That's a little bit dangerous.
So I see, like, because personally, until we can find, because before I get into this, I'm not well versed on the actual like science behind transitioning and going through that process and how the hormones affect a person specifically. I know it's a generalization, but like my best example that I can come up with off the top of my head is Fallon Fox.
I'm not sure if I...
Okay, so Fallon Fox is a transgender individual that went from male to female.
Okay.
And for 33, 35 years, male. Decides to change over to be a female, competes in UFC. And this is before like transgenders were like super in the media, like it's a very common topic to talk about.
Before there's awareness.
Exactly, before the awareness is brought to it, and this person entered the UFC. They didn't really vet the person. He's like, okay, yeah, we look at you. You look like a girl. You're a girl. All right, let's fight. And they put this person in UFC, and Fallon Fox is beating the fuck out of all of these,
she wins.
Yeah,
right?
beating the quite shit out of all of these people, and they're like, she's amazing. How is she doing this? And then they're like, oh. She's had testosterone flowing through her body for the past 33, 35 years, and now she's competing in a women's league and beating the fuck out of these women who have always been women. Like, dude, like...
Well, I think that, like, a little bit of that's charged, like, the always been women. Like, I think some people would say that, like, a lot of people that are trans women would say that they've always been women as well. But, one, that's an old-ass fighter. She's at least 36 or 37 in this conversation. Just already too old to be winning all these competitions.
Well, still, like, the point is that you have a human body that's been pumped with testosterone for over 3 decades, and now they're beating the fuck out of women who have had primarily estrogen through their body.
Right, and that's a failure of the UFC there. I would say more than it's a failure of the regulation.
No, I agree. No, that's a failure on all fronts because allowing that to happen.
The Olympics, for example, like there are people that are assigned female at birth already that are like have to actively undergo hormone treatments to be able to participate. Like I should remember names off the top of my head. I'm not great with names. I'm a very visual person. But
let's see if I can find it on the
there are tests, there are guidelines, there are thresholds based off of like hormonal balances to be able to regulate this regardless of gender, right? If you are a woman with too much testosterone, they will like limit you or force you to undergo some sort of treatment before you can actually compete in the Olympics anyway. So there are definitely guidelines, so there are definitely ways to do it. And sure, they're boring or complicated, but I think the big takeaway. Wait, what do you?
So I just looked up Olympic athletes that needed hormones. Like I don't know what the fuck else to look up, and a lot of the headlines are going around Caster Semenya.
Yeah, I think this is one of the
hormone suppressing drugs. Holy fuck! What do you mean hormone suppressing? What?
So while you look at that, I think the big takeaway is that whenever you're tempted to make a gut instinct decision based off of like a small amount of news, it's always better to like try to be more informed on it.
No, and I agree with that for sure.
This whole discussion right here is like a lot more difficult than saying, "Oh yeah, I don't want to shoot somebody that's experiencing this in the face," right?
Correct.
Like that's where it becomes more interesting and more difficult and more confusing. And for me, personally, now I'm dedicating my life to entertainment. Like when you then introduce this angle of presentation or performance or entertainment or representation, these issues become a lot more difficult or interesting. So here's a something I'll throw at you, right? There's a movie where Shia LaBeouf plays a Mexican person.
I know what you're talking about. It just came out. It didn't get great reviews.
But it's not good, regardless.
And he was like, I know this isn't the point you're bringing up, but he was like marketed as like the dude in that movie, and apparently he's hardly in it. Is that true?
Marketing's weird as shit. Let's be real. But it's like, okay, is that problematic to take like a kind of zeitgeist term? Is that fucked up that he's playing a Mexican person?
The tax collector, right?
Oh my god, what a terrible name for a movie! I already don't want to watch it. I hate taxes.
The tax collector. God. I mean,
I'm running a Antifa Instagram right now.
Oh my God, are you really?
Under the name of NM Libertarians. It's so much fun.
Oh my Christ! No, you're not.
Are you really? Oh no, it's bullshit. I got out of it. Okay. I sold the domain, but
that's fucking. If you were, that's hilarious. So do I think that's a problem? I mean, this is gonna come off as really fucking racist, but like,
yikes! Probably cut it. Though.
No, but like, I mean, like, if you can look the part, whatever part you're playing,
no, absolutely,
like,
it's believability.
Thank you, believability. Like, if you can look the part, why not? You know what I mean? Or if not that, like, I know this is a completely different like plane, but for instance, Zoe Saldana, black female. She played a blue alien.
I mean, she's kind of green, but
fine. Blue, green, like Avatar or whatever the fuck they were, right? If you can change that, right, that was believable. Like The Ring, by the way. If that was believable, I mean, I just saw the trailers, right? I never actually saw the movie, but if Shia LaBeouf looked Mexican, if he could pull off the role, at least looking at it, right? Again, I heard the actual movie itself was dog shit. But looking at it, if it's believable, then why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like...
And so when it comes to like Scarlett Johansson playing this main character in an anime-made...
Ghost in the Shell. Didn't see that either, funny thing.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I heard it was not
There's
great.
A movie I didn't see that you're going to take a lot of problem with recently, but we'll leave that too. Maybe you can think about what it is while we're talking. No, but it's like, I get the idea that it's like, okay, gut instinct again. You're like, Scarlett Johansson is a white woman playing this, like a Japanese woman traditionally in this Ghost in the Shell anime. That's fucked up because that's taking a role away from someone that's actually Japanese. Now, one, Scarlett Johansson being in this movie made a lot more people see it. Two,
it's marketability.
Believability. Sure. If she can play this robot cyborg woman in a sci-fi world that could be Japanese, good for her, right?
Right.
Like, it's about believability there. And it's like, okay, can you believe that she is in this character? Does it take you out of what I call the work, sex, drugs, or willing suspension of disbelief? I don't know. I love playing with acronyms. But good for it. So that's an easy thing. I'm like, okay, that's an overreaction from a lot of people.
No, it definitely is. I totally agree with you.
But, like, the reaction there is good. I do understand the motivation. People are like, no, we should have more people be represented in entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like now trying to think about it, trying to work in it. Like, yeah, I want to make sure that I have this going forward. Like I have this idea of representation, but I'm like, it doesn't matter as much as the actual screen representation as the industry. I'm talking like, okay, here's a question. Can you name a movie other than Wonder Woman with a female director?
Oh, fuck me in the face. I totally can until you bring it up. Zero Dark 30.
Okay.
Great. Renee Zellweger? No. Oh my God. Don't tell me. It was done by
You can just hit IMDb.
Yeah, I'm literally gonna look it up.
More than I want to watch you struggle. But it's like the point is that you can't really very well.
Okay, so Catherine Bigelow. So Zero Dark 30 and then Monster with Charlize Theron, where she played the female serial killer. That movie is also directed, funny enough, by Patty Jenkins.
Right. Patty Jenkins,
funny thing,
awesome director, regardless of her gender. Like she's sick at what she does.
Horrible writer, though. I'll say that.
I would say you're very wrong, but that's okay.
Wonder Woman 84. She wrote the script. That was a horribly written script.
Do you think that she wrote the script in isolation? Because I sincerely doubt that.
Isolation.
Also, Altoids are sick. They're everywhere. You've never seen any sort of marketing.
So to kind of like to touch on that, so like, do I think she wrote it alone? Definitely not. But the person that gave input was Jeff Johns, and it turns out that Jeff Johns is a really shitty screenwriter too.
It's a terrible name, dude. Jeff Johns. It's fake as fuck.
But he's a great comic writer.
Okay.
But he's a fantastic comic writer.
You know who's a fantastic comic writer? Taika Waititi.
Did he write comics?
Oh,
comic books.
I thought you meant like a comedy writer.
Oh, comics. Like comic books.
Oh, like he's actually penning comics?
Oh, yeah. Jeff Johns has been making comic books since like the early 2000s. Like he made his first major one, doing this rabbit hole, was Superman, The Last Son of Krypton. That's one of his first big ones where he actually he penned under Richard Donner, who was the writer and director for the first Superman movies. And then what made Jeff Johns huge was he brought back Barry Allen after he died in the 80s and made that really dope. And then he wrote a huge Green Lantern saga that made Green Lantern cool again. And then he also, for the New 52, after that, he wrote a 40-issue run on Aquaman that made Aquaman fucking amazing. So Jeff Johns is a great comic writer, but he's not a good screenwriter. And any real fault that's been in like this DC extended universe, a lot of it can be attributed to Jeff Johns, whether it's the writing or it's what they wanted to take out of the movie, because for whatever reason, the guy can't do movies. Like, I don't know what it is, but he makes amazing... He's also, like, a low-key racist, which really sucks, because there's been a lot of things going on between Ray Fisher, the actor behind Cyborg.
Okay.
And there's been this few things going on where basically he was saying that he was treated poorly and women were treated poorly on the set of Justice League when Joss Whedon took over. That Joss Whedon was treating them poorly, that Jeff Johns treating them poorly. And then he came out about a week and a half ago and this is him writing it, that apparently he heard conversations going on between Jeff Johns, Joss Whedon, and a third person. I forget who it was. It might have been Walter Hamada, who's now the CCO, I think, of Warner Brothers.
CCO?
Creative Control. Chief Creative Officer, thank you. So
that's not a C-suite position I'm unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So their conversation was basically, we need to cut a lot of Cyborg's story out of Justice League, which will now become the Snyder Cut next week. It
is coming out next week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay,
so we're going to cut out a lot of his story because we don't want an angry black man at the center of our like mass marketed superhero film. And that's an ugly thing. Like, that's a very ugly thing. Especially now with HBO Max releasing, I haven't seen it yet, and I really want to really take it off, Judas and the Black Messiah.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard it's exceptional.
Phenomenal. So anyway, back to what we were talking about. We were talking about inclusion in film. And so my opinion on Scarlett Johansson is like, I have never read Ghost in the Shell, the manga. I have not seen the movie. I have not seen the anime. But looking at what they did to that character, I don't agree with Scarlett Johansson being in the film. Not because of anything of her being white, not because of her being a unskilled actress, because she's an amazing actress.
She's good, yeah.
She is fantastic. I take that sentiment with the same way that I take Zendaya playing MJ in the Spider-Man movies. Mary Jane is not black. That's not the character. Like, and here's my, let me finish. Mary Jane is not black. And I don't think studios should be taking it upon themselves to film some sort of diversity quota and saying, oh, well, we're doing new things and making this character who's established as a Caucasian character, we're going to make her black. For what it came off to me as is we're going to like virtue signal and put a black person into the movie. Now, it would have made a little more sense to me if Zendaya was good in those movies, but she's not. She's a fantastic actress. I loved Malcolm and Marie.
That's what you were saying? It's Zendaya's best... Okay.
I haven't seen all of Euphoria yet, if that's what you're referencing to. I haven't seen all of Euphoria.
Okay.
But, like, I don't like Spider-Man Homecoming in general, but, like, I did not enjoy her in Spider-Man Homecoming because she didn't play Mary Jane. Mary Jane is not this, like angsty teenager who like is very like shy but edgy. Like, that's not who Mary Jane is. And then just visually, that's not who Mary Jane is. I'm like, and I'm not saying.
All right, let me let you take a breath for a second.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. Would you be down with Idris Elba being James Bond?
So I have not read. Okay, it's not true. I have read one James Bond novel. I've read From Russia with Love, and I probably need to reread that because I read that when I was in middle school, so I probably didn't grasp like half of it. But is my counter question would be: is James Bond explicitly Caucasian in Ian Fleming's novels? Because if so, that's when you go into question of, because then you break it down to, is it a question of, I don't think there's any debate that Idris Elba is a good actor. I think
He's great.
He's fantastic.
We know that.
He wasn't good in The Office. I didn't like him in The Office. But like other than that,
This is bad anyway. Hot take.
we'll disagree on that. But everything after like season 5 is bad. But like Idris Elba as an actor, he is good. Could I see him as James Bond? Maybe, but also like I understand revisionings, like like a new vision on a character. I can definitely see that. Just like we said before, nothing is black and white. And I guess my other problem with the MCU is like it or not, the versions, and this is very super personal to me because I love comic books,
fine,
right?
yeah.
Right. So like these characters that we're getting in the MCU are going to be the definitive version of these characters for the foreseeable future. Spider-Man is kind of an exception just because like we've already been through 3 Spider-Men, but like Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. And they'll recast him, I'm sure, in a couple however long it's going to take him to make money.
Say in like 15 years.
Yeah, in 15 years they'll make another Iron Man. But he's going to be Iron Man, right? Chris Hemsworth is going to be Thor. Chris Evans will be Captain America. But like
Chris Evans will also be the Human Torch, yeah?
dude, I loved his Human Torch. I didn't have a huge problem with it. But like
Okay, I'm going to stop you on this because this is what the point I was getting to is that there's an ownership as a consumer that you have over these like larger intellectual properties. You've read these comic books. You've grown up. You've like really had a relationship with the Spider-Man story, right?
Right.
Like you understand the quotes. You come to actually support these franchises, right? So it's like, hey, when you're changing something on me that's like already rooted in nostalgia, it hurts or it changes my experience. Yes, for sure. Now, separate that from the question of race. It's not necessarily that MJ is a person of color. It's that MJ is different, right? It's like the MJ, like your problem with Zendaya being MJ in this is not that MJ can't be black. I really would disagree with, like,
okay.
I really would challenge you to analyze this, that I don't really think that what you're saying is that it's like MJ being black. It's that you're taking the story of Spider-Man and you're either virtually signaling how you get laid in college, virtue signaling to like try to profit off the story or try to corporatize it or try to make more of it.
Right.
And I think that that's like a very real thing. It's that it's like there's a change in the way that people are consuming movies. There's a change in people who are going to these movies, especially when you don't have to be going to these theaters, right?
Right.
But I would challenge you to like say, oh, it's bad because Zendaya is not fitting this MJ storyline to the way that's like decent. I would tend to agree with you. I think Tom Holland's an excellent Spider-Man.
I think he's a very good. I think they're writing him wrong, but I think he's very good. I think he's good. He's the perfect kid to do it. They just need to like not make him Iron Man Jr. But continue.
But I think that like the representation in film problem is that it's like it's not about who's necessarily on screen as much. I think that like you definitely can see where it is impactful, where it doesn't really matter, and there's a lot of corporate politics about who is going where. And
for
casting
sure.
At this top level, at the MCU level, casting is insane.
Yeah.
What I think it is important to like recognize, especially for someone that I would call you like kind of a super fan. Oh
yeah, I am for sure.
The MCU.
This entire arm is superheroes, so yeah.
I'm not a big fan of tattoos, but that's just it's about recognizing and appreciating your audience and trying to connect the dots between them. And it's like I don't want it to be a shell shock on any side. Right. When you're revitalizing a franchise, obviously they still haven't hit it with Spider-Man. Like, let's be real, the best movie that Spider-Man has done in the last 20 years, and I will fight you on this, is Spider-Man Into the Multiverse or whatever, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh no, yeah. If we're encompassing every Spider-Man movie, live action and animated, Into the Spider-Verse is
Better.
what is the best, certainly the most accurate. Well, yeah, certainly the most accurate, and the only real contender is like I kind of dice between the first Tobey Spider-Man and the second Tobey Spider-Man, just because like I have so much like pure nostalgia attached to the first one. Like that's the first movie I remember seeing in theaters. Yeah. But then Spider-Man 2 is just a better made movie. Like it's like Sam Raimi took everything he did and made it better.
All right, well let me hit you with a crazy stop right now.
Yeah.
Green Goblin's going to be black in the next Spider-Man movie.
Will he?
That's my understanding. That's what I've read from all my research.
No.
Greg Goblin is going to be played by the lead. I'm forgetting his name right now, but he's the lead of... You could look up Lovecraft Story.
No, that dude is playing Kang the Conqueror. He's already signed on.
King the Conqueror.
Excuse me. Yeah, he's playing King the Conqueror. Okay. Yes.
Much cooler villain than Green Goblin anyway.
No, I get you. I don't like Green Goblin
but it's
in the
like
comics.
The excitement I can already feel from that, from knowing a good actor is going to be taking care of something that
and
I really
love Lovecraft Story.
Right.
Or Lovecraft Country. I love
right,
that.
Thank you.
Loved
like
it.
It's great. And it's like seeing that. He's also in this movie shot in New Mexico with Idris Elba about cowboys. It's going to be really cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's pretty funny to like hear one of my former bosses was like trying to get me onto the COVID staff team kind of thing, where it's like, you know, this COVID safety team.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, actually he sucks, but he's like, yeah, Gus, do you want to be on the COVID safety team for this Black Cowboy movie? And I was like,
the Black Cowboy
I was like,
movie.
dude, it's 7:30 a.m. You can't hit me with all this stuff this early in the morning.
Jonathan Majors, that's his name.
Jonathan Majors, fantastic.
Fantastic actor. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Wait, so what? The Harder They Fall? Yeah.
That's what it's called. The Harder They Fall. It's supposed to be great. I'm really excited for it.
Zazie Beetz is in it. Idris Elba.
8 months.
Lakeith Stanfield's in it.
Lakeith Stanfield, dude.
Regina King. Dude, this is going to be a kick-ass movie.
All shot in New Mexico, as I understand, too. It took 8 months. They got, like, last March, they got, like, a COVID test on set, and so, like, it suspended it for months and months and months.
Jay-Z's producing it?
Yeah,
what the fuck?
Absolutely. It's going to be insane.
This
if
is going to be
anything for your viewers to recognize, it's like there is such good entertainment coming out.
Oh my God.
Actually, maybe that's a good spot to little transition. Take a little break. Enjoy this for a second. I want to relate back to this story. All right.
Yeah.
So, you don't have to listen to the earlier part, but essentially this is the 5-beat piece of it.
For sure.
It's like, I'm in Roswell. I'm dating an older woman. She is like, we're like really into each other. I get this job in Albuquerque. She's not super stoked about it. I go to Germany before it. I go through Europe.
So I go to another continent.
I go to Europe. I'm not going to turn down going to Europe with my fam. Like,
no, for sure.
We actually just got a new puppy. We definitely left this new puppy with someone. Like, and it's like, it's kind of fucked up because it's like 2 weeks into having a puppy. We're like, all right, peace. Our whole family's going to Europe.
That last cube is yours.
I'll take the cube. Is that what the Tesseract is? Continue. Anyway.
Oh my fucking God.
So we all are going to Europe. Okay, finish Europe. I really see like the world, see like this inspiration of it. I come back into Roswell, fly into Roswell. I have 24 hours there. I try to hit her up. She's like, fuck no, I'm pissed that you left. We're done. I'm like, okay. The next day I drive my entire life up to Albuquerque and I set myself up here.
That is, yeah, you got some brass balls, man.
So I'm like, I ditch everything I'm doing. I come up here. I really don't know anybody. I had like 2 friends in Albuquerque at that point. Both of them now are like very like much so still my friends, but like I never interact with them. So I'm like, well, thank you guys for getting me to Albuquerque.
It's like acquaintances almost.
Well, no, we're still dear friends, but it's just like we don't see each other. We're not close.
Yeah, I feel you.
We're dear friends, but not close.
Yeah, I know. I get you. I totally get you.
So I go through this intensive, 14 weeks of learning how to code. And even more than that, I would say that like learning how to learn. I had this awesome professor that was like my main professor. And I'm telling you, like, this is a person for the ages. They were oh my gosh, a queer Mexa güero, like white Mexa Star Trek nerd teaching this coding operation for way less money than they can get at literally any tech company. But they're like flamboyant and boisterous and like engaging and a great instructor. And like, I still remember the last day at graduation, he's like, I should have never let you graduate. Fuck life up, Gus. And I was like, yes, I will. I totally plan on doing it. But he taught me how to learn more than the Institute, more than NMMI, right? More than going to Vanderbilt, more than any other educational setting I've been in.
So he gave you like that true student mentality.
I am confident from that experience, I learned how to learn, how to like see a problem and be able to be like, okay, I need some time to seek out the information to be